Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about why most role-playing games seem to hate spellcasters. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, Shane, that doesn't seem like a very fair assessment. Why are you saying that? I'm glad you asked that. So, let's talk about it. For one, most role-playing games limit the amount of spells that a spellcaster can cast. And that's a huge problem. For example, in most role-playing games that are based off of around the 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons rules, most spellcasters can cast an unlimited number of cantrips a day, 0-level spells, but they can only cast up to 3 or 4 first-level spells a day. And I'm sure you're saying, well, that seems fair. Well, it's not really, because if you have a fighter, let's say your fighter has a greatsword, right? And he can swing that greatsword constantly, right? Every round you just swing it, swing it, swing it, swing it, swing it. Does a bunch of damage. Cool. You're a spellcaster. You're like, all right, I got a spell. I got a good spell. It does 1d8 damage. I can fire it up to 30 feet away. Cool. All right, you got 4 of those. So you use 2 of them in the first combat. You use 2 of them in the second combat encounter. And then you're done. And your 0-level spells do 1d3. It's the equivalent of a fighter having that greatsword, only swinging it in combat 3 times, and then the dungeon master saying, okay, now I need you to sheath your greatsword, and I need you to draw your dagger. And that's what you get to use for the rest of the day. Doesn't sound very fair, right? Most fighters would be like, no, I've got my greatsword. Why can't I use my greatsword all the time? Well, just swinging that greatsword 2 times has wore you out really bad. So you're going to have to you're going to have to use the dagger. The fighter would be like, that makes no logical sense. Bingo. Why is that the same case for spellcasters? Why are they limited? And I know a lot of people will go, well, it's because magic is so powerful and you can use it from far away. Well, if you're an archer, you can use your bow or your crossbow from far away as well. Why aren't they limited? And you're thinking, well, it's different. But why? Why is it different? And that's the key. There is no real reason why either are different. If you are an archer, you have trained for hours upon hours upon hours to be able to use that bow effectively, to be able to nail that shot, to be able to string it when it's wet, and like the bow is starting to slip out of your hands, or like maybe it's dark and you can't see that well. You have trained for these things. If you're a spellcaster, you have done the same thing. You have trained. So it's ridiculous. So that covers all like the 4th edition, the 3.5s. Can't cover 4th edition. 4th edition actually did the best job of managing to balance all the classes. If you were a spellcaster, you were just as effective as you as a fighter, rogue, somebody like that. And your damage scaled up equivalently. And so that one we're going to skip. And then you have a game like Earthdawn. Game many of you may not be familiar with. Earthdawn's a great game. Spellcasters in that game, they can actually wear armor. They're not prevented from wearing armor, so that actually they got right. And they can cast spells as much as they want. And I know you're thinking, well, okay, cool. Not really. Most spells that are effective have to have threads woven to them. Extra power that the spell needs to be able to be cast. So, if you do that, then you can't cast the spell until you weave the threads. Well, if your spell needs 2 threads, you could try to weave both of them at once, but if you failed, then you spent a whole round doing absolutely nothing. So let's say you spend the first round. Round 1, weave the thread. Boom, you make your test. Round 2, you fail your test for the second thread. Oh well, you didn't botch it, so you still have the first thread. Round 3, you weave the second thread. Excellent. Round 4, you're ready to cast a spell, but everybody's dead because the rest of your party has taken care of everything. Oh well, I'll just get him in the next encounter. Yeah, that happens pretty often, and that gets frustrating. Another example where they kind of, you have to store your spell in what's called a spell matrix, which is how you can use it repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, but you only start with a limited number of spell matrices, usually 2. So let's say you have, in one spell matrix, you have an awesome damage spell. And the other one, you have a protective spell for yourself. scenario happens where, let's say, one of your team is about to fall, and you have a rescue team from falling to their certain death spell, but you don't have any in your spell matrix, so you have to reattune your spell matrix. Normally that takes like 5 minutes of time, but you don't have 5 minutes of time because they're going to fall. So you kind of try to have to do it on the fly. Guess what that requires? If you guessed a roll, you would be correct. And if you botch that roll, you wipe your spell matrix out completely. Oh, your teammate fell, and they're dead. Doesn't seem very fair, does it? So again, while they did some things right, they still did not really, they acted like they hate spellcasters. The only game that I've come close to seeing where spellcasters are treated fairly is Shadowrun. If you've never played Shadowrun, it's a futuristic game set in, I think it's like 2074 now. Magic, hacking, elves, samurai, semi-automatic weapons, commanding drones that have machine guns. It's really cool, but it's one of the only ones that actually has a fair balance for spellcasters, because you can cast a spell as much as you want. You only have to resist drain. And drain is basically like stun damage. And it's based off of how powerful the spell is. So you as the spellcaster, every round get to determine how powerful you want to make that spell. Or are you fighting something that's pretty big and bad, and if you don't bring it down, it's going to take you all out? Well, maybe that's the time to use the spell at the maximum level you can cast it at. Are you fighting a security guard who, if you knock him out, cool, and it's not going to require too much of your power? You bring the power down. So that seems fair. It's the only one that seems to do it. I don't know why most games seem to act like spellcasting is such a horrible thing. They really do. They treat it like they want to punish players who want to play spellcasters, which isn't fair. From the whole thing about not wearing armor because it interferes with your somatic gestures, to not having a lot of spells to cast, things like that. They pretty much treat magic like it's something scary, something different that they really want to deal with, but it's really cool because if you want to play a wizard, you want to play a wizard, right? No, but it's not. It's not really cool if you're that wizard and you're stuck. And you've already cast your 3 spells that you're allowed today, first level spells, and your 0 level spells are not damaging this creature that you're facing, and he's got you cornered. And your buddies are all down, and you've got no armor, and your weapon is a quarterstaff. And that sucks. That sucks. If you're playing that wizard, you're going, I made a bad decision in playing this character. And that's unfair, because you wanted to play a wizard. You wanted to play a wizard, but yet you're being punished for your choice. Role-playing games are all supposed to be about choice. You're supposed to be able to be rewarded for your choice, not punished for it. If you want to play a spellcaster, you should be allowed to play a spellcaster, but you should be allowed to play a spellcaster that seems realistic. And I say that because obviously people are going to be like, well, Shane, you understand magic's not real, right? Okay, yes, I get that. But, and as we talked about it before, if you had a magic tradition and magic was something they just discovered, then it would seem realistic to have the restrictions where you can't wear armor because it interferes with your gestures, and you can only cast a few of them a day, and when you're in combat, you have to be paying all sorts of attention because magic requires so much of your focus that you could easily let somebody get the jump on you. Most games don't take place like that. Most games take place where magic has been around for thousands of years, and these traditions have existed for thousands of years. I find it completely unrealistic to think that in thousands of years they haven't trained spellcasters into at least wear leather armor while they're casting. They haven't trained them to keep an eye on the battlefield so they're not giving somebody an advantage over them. That is realistically what would happen. And the fact that they try to claim, well, that's just tradition, is just lazy. They could do better. They should do better. And you as the player should demand that they do better, because role-playing games are all about choices. And if you're being punished for your choice, that's not much of a choice at all, is it? Alright, that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like it. And if this is your first time seeing me, welcome. Subscribe if you liked it. And I will talk to you later.